I hope you enjoy my stories. Instead of just clicking thumbs down, please comment and share how we can do better. If you do like our video, then please like and subscribe.
Living in a neighborhood with a HOA can be a bit of a roller coaster, but I never expected to be living through a nightmare due to a Karen.
Yeah, you know what I mean. One of those Karens from the internet memes.
Only this particular Karen had set her sights on becoming the president of our HOA. Here's how it all went down.
My name is Sam, and I live in a pretty peaceful neighborhood. Well, it was peaceful until Karen decided she was going to take over the world, one HOA meeting at a time. Nobody knew how she even got on the board in the first place. She's loud, obnoxious, and nasty to almost everyone she meets. She's always acting like she's better than everyone else, which made it even more annoying when she started campaigning hard to become the president. For weeks, Karen was out there, knocking on doors, handing out flyers, and plastering her overly edited face on every lamppost and mailbox. But no one was really listening to her. Most of us were busy trying to avoid her. Despite her efforts, we just couldn't see anyone actually voting for her. It was like she was talking to invisible people or something.
Fast forward to election day, and we were all shocked when it was announced that Karen had won. Karen was now the president of our HOA, and hell hit the fan almost immediately.
One of the first things she did was start imposing fines on everyone for the most ridiculous reasons. Your grass was an inch too high? Fined.
Your trash can's out 10 minutes before pickup time?
Fined.
She was also trying to make up new rules on the fly, like banning holiday decorations or setting a curfew for when we could walk our dogs. It was insanity, and everyone was pissed.
The neighborhood was in chaos. I decided to take action. I started doing a survey of almost all the neighbors to find out if they voted for Karen. I knocked on doors, spoke to people during my evening walks, and even hosted a small get-together to discuss it. I found out most of the neighborhood, about 85% of the people I talked to, hadn't voted for her. Seriously, how did she win? My curiosity turned into suspicion, and I started digging around for the truth. That's when I discovered something shocking. It turns out Karen was having an affair with Jeff, the one guy on the board who was in charge of organizing and counting the votes. Apparently, there was no oversight, and everyone just believed him when he announced the results. It was like a bad episode of a soap opera, but it was our real life. As soon as I found out about this scandal, I knew we were done playing by the rules that Karen and Jeff had so clearly twisted. We needed to clean house, get rid of them, and change how votes were counted. So, here's what we did. First, we organized a neighborhood meeting in Jim's garage. Jim's a cool guy and probably has the biggest garage I've ever seen. We all crammed in there and started discussing our plan of action. We knew we had to be strategic and smart about this. We couldn't just barge into the next HOA meeting yelling our heads off, even if that's what many of us wanted to do. Step 1. We gathered evidence. Some of the neighbors had seen Karen and Jeff acting too cozy at random times, like making out in the parking lot behind the community center. Other neighbors had evidence of the shady fines Karen was imposing, photos and timestamps showing how ridiculous the fines were. We compiled all this into a folder. Step 2. We wrote a petition. Stacy, who has the neatest handwriting, wrote it out. It was long, and it detailed every complaint we had, supported by the evidence we gathered. It ended with a demand for Karen's resignation and a complete re-election process with proper oversight. We got nearly all the neighbors to sign it, even the ones who usually didn't get involved in anything. Step 3. We made our case public. We had a few tech-savvy neighbors who helped us create a website, and we posted everything there. Our petition, the evidence, and testimonies from the residents. We even had a catchy slogan, "Take back our HOA." We shared the link everywhere, social media, email, and even slipped flyers under doors. Finally, armed with our petition and a united community, we went to the next HOA meeting. The atmosphere in the room was intense. Karen was visibly annoyed when she saw the large turnout. Jeff looked uncomfortable. I stood up and presented our case. I handed the folder to the remaining board members and distributed copies of the petition. I read out some of the testimonies and explained our demands. When I revealed the affair, and trust me, it was dramatic, everyone gasped. You could see Karen turning red with anger and embarrassment. Jeff's face was pale. The board members took a brief recess. When they returned, their decision was clear. Karen and Jeff were both to be removed from their positions immediately. And a new election process was to be put in place, one with proper oversight to ensure fairness. The neighborhood erupted in cheers.
It felt good to have a voice and see justice being done.
We celebrated our victory that night, confident that the peace of our community would be restored. We set up a committee to oversee the next election, and this time, the process was transparent and fair. There was no drama, no scandal, just a normal, democratic process. A few weeks later, we had a new president, Miss Garcia, a retired teacher who always had a smile and a kind word for everyone. She had been living in the neighborhood for years and was genuinely committed to making it a better place for all of us. Under her leadership, things slowly started to get back to normal. The unfair fines were revoked, and the crazy rules were abolished. Looking back, it was an intense experience, but it brought our community closer together. We learned the importance of standing up for what's right and voicing our concerns. And now, we have a better system in place to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again. So, if you ever find yourself living in an HOA nightmare, remember this story. Stand together with your neighbors and take action.
You never know, your Karen might just meet her match. The ordeal with my HOA fines for late payments has been quite a stressful experience.
It started innocuously enough, but things quickly spiraled out of control. The first fine arrived when I was just a few days late with my payment due to an oversight. I thought a simple explanation and immediate payment would clear things up, but the fines kept piling up regardless of my attempts to rectify the situation. I found myself entangled in a confusing web of fees and penalties, each one compounding the previous ones. As the fines accumulated, my frustration grew. Despite multiple attempts at communication, phone calls, and emails to the HOA, there seemed to be no end in sight. The stress of dealing with this ongoing issue began to take a toll on my daily life, affecting my peace of mind and even my sleep. Maybe you're dealing with something similar. If so, I hope sharing my experience can provide some comfort or insights into handling such a frustrating situation.
It's important to document everything and stay persistent, hoping for a resolution.
For years, I've been in good standing with my HOA.
To avoid any mess, I kept an excess balance for my monthly dues. This way, if there was any increase and I forgot to update my automatic bill pay, I wouldn't end up with a late fee. It's been working well, no issues.
Then came last year, and things changed. The property management company and the HOA board had a lot of turnover. New faces everywhere. Suddenly, the only statement I got was once a year. The new property manager was not helpful at all. She took forever to respond to the simplest questions, and I had to remind her multiple times just to get a lousy answer. At the start of 2023, my HOA balance was still positive, even with an increase in dues beginning in January. I didn't update my bill pay, but my excess balance covered it all until March. But I didn't hear anything about this from the HOA until late May or early June. By then, the late fees had started piling up. I wrote to them, complained about not being informed in time, and asked them to remove the late fees since I had now adjusted my bill pay. I thought this was logical, considering I had been keeping up with dues for years. But I held off paying those late fees, crossing my fingers that they'd waive them. Wishful thinking. I didn't hear anything back for 2 whole months. Just dead silence. And during this time, the property manager went on vacation. When she finally got back to me, she let me know that nothing had been done about my late fees. I was really frustrated. I asked for an updated statement and saw that even more late fees had been added for the extra months. Pissed off, I sent some strong-worded emails about their lack of professionalism, but it was clear she wasn't going to help me. In September, I decided to bite the bullet and paid all the fees. It cost me a few $100. Annoyingly, I moved on and started asking for quarterly statements from the PM, but it's still the same game. They don't send them unless I pester them over and over through email. The whole situation with the late fees not being communicated on time is driving me nuts. I have no idea when it's happening since I only get one statement annually. And there's no online portal to check the statements either, which is super frustrating. Now, here's my big question. Is there any way I can fight these charges and this terrible practice? And if yes, what would be the right steps to take? I'm living in New Jersey, by the way. I guess I'll start by trying to talk to the HOA board directly. Maybe I can attend the next board meeting and make my case. I'll bring all my documentation, emails, payment records, and the annual statements showing my positive balance and the sudden jump in late fees. Sometimes, laying it all out clearly can make a difference. If that doesn't work, My next step might be to seek some legal advice.
There's usually a lawyer specializing in HOA matters.
It costs money, but it might be worth it considering the repeated late fees and the principle behind this struggle for fair treatment. I could also reach out to my fellow homeowners. Maybe some of them are having the same problem and would be willing to team up. A group of frustrated residents is harder to ignore than just one individual.
We've got strength in numbers, after all.
Maybe we can put more pressure on the board or even push for changing the property management company if they're really that bad. Another step could be to file a complaint with the Division of Consumer Affairs here in New Jersey. They handle disputes like these and might be able to mediate and help resolve the issue. They might even impose fines or sanctions on the property management company if they're found in the wrong. I'm also thinking about sending a formal, written request for an explanation from the property management company through certified mail. That way, I have proof they received my complaint. It might not resolve things quickly, but it's a step towards documentation if things escalate legally. Moreover, I've read there are specific laws in New Jersey that protect homeowners in these situations. The New Jersey Condominium Act, for example, might have clauses that have been breached by the HOA or the property manager. Understanding these laws or even citing them in my complaints can give my arguments more weight. In the meantime, I'll keep pestering for those quarterly statements. It's tiresome, but at least it keeps me somewhat informed. As they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I don't plan to let up until they fix this mess. Man, it's exhausting just writing all this, but it feels a bit better getting it all out. This whole thing feels like it's taken over my life a bit. Hopefully, the steps I've laid out will help me get some resolution. If anyone out there has been through something similar, I'd appreciate any advice or tips. We're all in this HOA mess together. Moving into my current community has been a breath of fresh air compared to my last experience with the Homeowners Association. My current HOA is pretty decent so far. Minimal drama, transparent financials, and just an overall better vibe. But the memories of my nightmare HOA from my previous place still haunt me, especially when I look at my bank statements and think about all the money I dished out for absolutely nothing. When I first moved into my previous condo, the monthly HOA fee was $250. A bit steep, but it covered all the typical things like exterior maintenance, lawn care, and even my water bill. I figured it was a fair deal, at least initially. I liked the fact that I didn't have to worry about paying a water bill separately. I was completely unaware that this would become a ticking time bomb. It wasn't long before the special assessments started rolling in. The first one was $500. They told us it was for the boilers. Each of the 3 buildings had a central boiler system, and these things were like ancient relics. Every time one of them needed work, or if any single unit needed plumbing work, everyone in the entire building lost water. No warning, no heads up. I can't tell you how many mornings I dragged myself out of bed, coffee in hand, only to find there was no water to make said coffee. The first few times it happened, I was caught off guard. I chalked it up to bad luck or maybe poor planning on my part. But when it happened repeatedly, I started to suspect that something fishy was going on. No one could ever give me a straight answer about why the boilers were constantly breaking down or why the $500 assessments reoccurred like clockwork every 6 months. I swear, it felt like they were just pocketing the money. The thing that got on my nerves the most was the lack of notice. You'd think with such a disruptive issue, they'd give us a heads up. Nope, just woke up one day, and surprise, no water. It became almost a running joke among the neighbors. "How long do you think we'll have water today?" someone would say. Cue the nervous laughter because we all knew just how unfunny the joke really was. A year before I finally decided I'd had enough, the monthly HOA fees rose to $350. And the worst part, they announced they were going to increase it again. Just when I didn't think it could get any worse, they hit us with a near $1,000 special assessment for replacing everyone's decks and all the staircases. We grumbled and paid up, thinking at least we'd get something out of it. Spoiler alert, they never completed the work. My friend, who's an investor, bought my unit and rented it out. He keeps me updated on the status of the place, mainly so we can commiserate about how awful the property management was. Last I heard, the decks are still in shambles, and the staircases haven't seen a lick of work. What really floored me, though, was finding out that the HOA was in a legal battle over insurance not covering the siding during a hailstorm that happened before I even moved in. It made sense. They'd been siphoning money from us to cover all their legal bills. That's why the monthly fees kept climbing and why there were so few amenities to show for it.
Living there felt more like being managed by a tyrannical landlord rather than being part of a community of homeowners.
The property management treated everyone like tenants, not owners. It didn't matter that it was technically our property. They dictated what could and couldn't be done, all while bleeding us dry financially. I dream of one day escaping the clutches of any HOA.
Owning a standalone home, free from the arbitrary fees and dictatorial whims, seems like an impossible dream right now.
But I hold on to that hope. For now, I feel trapped, but at least I'm aware.
And awareness is the first step to making a change. Leaving that nightmare HOA behind felt like quitting a toxic job. The immediate relief was palpable, but the scars are still there. Even now, every time my current HOA announces a meeting or a minor fee adjustment, my anxiety spikes.
But then I remember where I was and where I am now, and I breathe a little easier. All I can do is keep moving forward, hoping that one day I'll find myself in a home where the only thing I have to worry about is mowing my own lawn on a Saturday morning.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.